I thought inheriting 400 acres of Texas dirt would buy me peace. Turns out it bought me a war, a forged contract, and a woman in a linen pantsuit who tried to charge me 92 grand for the privilege of minding my own business. And somewhere in the middle of it all, a one-eyed goat named Darla became my legal co-counsel. Yeah, that's not how I pictured my fresh start. See, I'd spent most of my adult life in Austin systems engineering tidy spreadsheets, predictable chaos, the kind you can reboot. My days ran on logic, clean code, and Wi-Fi strong enough to stream 3 screens at once. Structure made sense to me. But when my grandfather James Big Jim Mercer passed and left me his ranch out near Lake Whitney, 400 acres of scrubland, a pond that caught the sky just right. At sunset, steel barns that groaned in the wind, and a cedar-scented farmhouse soaked in decades of tobacco and stories, something in me shifted. It felt like oxygen. Mornings meant riding the fence line with coffee in one hand, boots up on the ATV. Nights meant stars so thick they made you feel small in a good way. Out there, the only rules came from weather and livestock, and if you ignored those, you learned fast. Usually the hard way. Grandpa used to say, "You want peace, son? Stay the hell away from HOAs. They're like ticks in a velvet box." He meant it. Once burned a homeowners association letter without opening it and used it to light the grill. Said paper's only useful if it cooks meat. So when I moved out there full-time, I figured the only battles I'd face would be with stubborn hinges and the occasional ornery cow. I was wrong. About a month in, I'm fixing the front gate, sweat running down my back, when a white Lexus creeps up my gravel drive like it's afraid of dust. Out steps a woman who looked like she'd been pressed with her own linen suit, sharp bob haircut, pearl earrings, smile so tight it could slice ham, clipboard tucked under her arm like a weapon. "Mr. Mercer," she says, sweet as syrup left too long in the sun. "I'm Karen Stone, president of the High Meadow Estates, HOA. Let's discuss your outstanding balance." Outstanding balance. She flips open a folder. Invoices, notices, demand letters totaling $92,000 in unpaid HOA dues over 12 years. I blinked. Laughed, actually. Thought maybe she had the wrong Mercer. "My grandfather wasn't in any HOA," I said. Her smile didn't move. "He signed an agreement in 2009. And she slid across a sheet of copy paper with a signature that looked like somebody traced Grandpa's name during a mild earthquake. No notary seal, no witness, just a crooked scribble. "You inherit the land," she said gently. "You inherit the obligations." I stared at that paper, felt something cold settle in my gut. Not fear, insult. After she drove off in a cloud of polite dust, I called Juan Espinosa, Grandpa's old friend, lawyer. Man drinks whiskey from jelly jars and files lawsuits like he's gutting rattlesnakes. He called back the next day. "Kyle, this is garbage. Your granddad's property is exempt from HOA jurisdiction. Always has been. That document was never filed with the county. It's fake. Should have ended there." It didn't. Within a week, I got violation letters. Grass too wild. Barn lights too bright. Tractor noise during quiet hours. Quiet hours. On a ranch. Then someone tipped off the county about my pond, said I was diverting natural water sources. Immigration officers showed up asking about Jesus, who'd worked that land since Reagan was president. My gate lock got cut. Mail ripped open. One morning, I found a dead fish nailed to my barn with a Post-it that read, "Pay what you owe." That's when it stopped being annoying and started being strategic. I installed cameras, logged incidents, backed up footage. Juan said, "She's trying to grind you down. Death by paperwork." But I'd grown up watching Grandpa stand his ground against cattle drought and bureaucrats with clipboards. If Karen wanted a war of attrition, she picked the wrong family. Instead of reacting, I started digging, knocked on doors. Not the shiny new ones inside HOA boundaries, but the old porches with peeling paint, and people who remembered when this land was quiet. The Thompsons told me they'd been hit with a retroactive inclusion agreement, paid $7 grand they couldn't afford, sold acreage to cover it, same font, same fake notary line. Then came the twist. Marcy Delgado, former HOA secretary. I brought wine. She brought receipts. Emails where Karen discussed creative jurisdiction strategies. She'd scanned signatures off old permits and pasted them into fabricated agreements. This wasn't a misunderstanding, it was a pattern. Juan brought in a forensic handwriting expert, retired FBI guy, who looked allergic to nonsense. "Intentional simulation," he said of the signature. Poor one. Then I reviewed my camera footage, and there she was, Karen herself, midnight at my mailbox, slipping something inside, whispering, "Let's see you ignore this one." I paused the video, sipped coffee, smiled slow. "Oh, Karen, you just stepped into felony territory." Word spread. A local blogger picked up the story. Neighbors started showing up letters and hand stories of intimidation. I wasn't alone. I was a rally point. Then Karen escalated. Flyers went up calling me a destabilizing force, a tractor menace. Said my goat Darla was aggressive livestock with unclear containment. Darla, by the way, limps and sunbathes like she's retired. The peak insanity came one morning at sunrise, grinding metal. I step outside in boots and a bathrobe. There's a backhoe digging a trench on my east fence line. HOA irrigation extension, the kid says. Work order approved. By Karen. I called the sheriff. He looked at my deed, looked at the trench, and told them to back off. Karen showed up furious, pearls trembling. The boundaries have always been fluid, she insisted. The sheriff blinked. That's not how property law works. That was the moment I knew she wasn't confident, she was desperate. And desperate people swing wild. So we filed. 56 pages. Fraud, extortion, harassment, trespassing, defamation. Criminal complaint attached. Video evidence neatly labeled. She got served at my gate. Process server smiling like he'd just handed her a birthday card. This is slander, she snapped. No, I said, tightening the ATV strap, it's discovery. Court day felt like a Western showdown. Neighbors packed the benches. Juan carried our files in an ammo crate. The handwriting expert testified. Marcy testified. The video played Karen muttering into my mailbox under moonlight. Then Karen took the stand, and she cracked. Rambled about moral standards, about preserving property values, finally blurted, if he'd just paid the fee, none of this would have happened. Juan tilted his head, so it was about the money. Silence. Verdict came down heavy. Guilty on all counts. Personal fines. Community service. Criminal referral. HOA ordered to pay restitution not just to me, but to every resident she'd shaken down. I didn't cheer, just breathed. Thought about Grandpa lighting that HOA letter on fire and laughing. Afterward, something shifted in the air. The ranch felt lighter. No headlights sweeping past at midnight. No threats in the mailbox. Darla chewed hay like she'd personally won oral arguments. Neighbors thanked me. Town hall gave me a standing ovation, not loud, just steady. The kind that says, finally. A few months later, I got a postcard from the Cayman Islands. Sunset, palm trees. On the back could have been your problem. Karen. I laughed so hard I spilled coffee. Pinned it above my workbench next to the court ruling, and a cartoon someone drew of Darla stomping an HOA sign like Godzilla. Here's the thing I learned, and I learned it late. Bullies don't always look like bullies. Sometimes they wear pearls and carry clipboards. They hide behind bylaws and talk about standards. And if enough people stay quiet because they're tired or scared, those fake rules start to feel real. Power grows where it isn't challenged. But it shrinks fast when somebody says, no, show me the law. The victory wasn't about money. It was about drawing a line not just on a property map, but in the sand of what's acceptable. Last Sunday, a local station filmed me sitting on a hay bale, Darla beside me like a furry attorney. The reporter asked what advice I'd give someone facing HOA abuse. I said, know your rights, document everything. And if they bring a fake contract, bring a real lawyer, and maybe a goat. Now there's a wooden sign at my gate burned in with a branding iron. You've entered Mercer Ranch. No trespassing, no HOA. Yes, we're serious. Underneath smaller letters, if you're looking for trouble, we've got a goat with an attitude. And every evening when the sun dips low and the pasture turns gold, I sit on that porch and feel something that money can't buy and paperwork can't bully out of you. Peace, the earned kind. But here's what I keep wondering. How many Karens out there never get challenged? How many people pay the fee just to make it stop? At what point does community standard become quiet extortion, and who decides where that line is? I stood my ground because I could. Not everyone can. So I'm curious, if you were in my boots, would you have fought? Or would you have paid just to get your life back? Drop your thoughts below. Tell me where you draw the line between keeping the peace and demanding justice. And if you've ever had to stare down your own clipboard-wielding dragon.